All right. This week we have You're So MAGA, You Don't Even Know It. Woo! All right. Lots of excitement all around the nation for President Trump. Starting in Coralville, Iowa, you can just see people engaged, people up front wanting to see things. Also in Durham, New Hampshire, massive turnout. Take a look at this next slide. Packed out in New Hampshire, a good sign. And what was the mood like in the room? Well, this was the mood. People excited. Also, we see excitement in Reno, Nevada, where Trump was next. People braving the elements there. Patriotic people, people that have heart. You could even see it in the parking lot. People excited. Record-setting crowd there as well. So huge stuff. Waterloo, Iowa, with some Christmas gifts wrapped in Never Surrender, and people engaged, wanting to make a difference in their communities. And then wherever Trump goes, he is just, the nation is falling in love with him. Here he is at UFC 296 in Las Vegas, the crowd on their feet, wanting pictures, wanting to see him. So we're winning in the public domain. We're winning also with Trump's game plan. But by a little way of a segue here, most people don't know this, but originally Trump was typecast as the leading man in the movie Titanic. But it was then taken over by some other guy, DiCaprio, somebody. All right, on a serious note, we have Steve Bannon and Sean Spicer talking about the vice presidential competition, who will be Trump's running mate, and both of them predict Trump will pick a female to be his running mate. Very interesting. These are people in the know that understand the game. But Trump had some beautiful quotes this week which indicate what's going on, what's his game plan going forward. Well, he says, on day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, notice he calls it insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. Praise the Lord.
Woo.
Yeah, woo. Yeah. He also goes on to say, I'm going to use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately.
Praise God.
So child trafficking is on his mind. He is wanting to put an end to it. And he also he's recognizing what's happening to the churches of America. He said, you know, this campaign of mine is a righteous crusade to rescue our nation from, in this case, very corrupt political class. And another great quote, another beauty. He notes, for 4 straight years, I kept America safe. Obviously, with God's help. I kept Israel safe, I kept Ukraine safe, and I kept the entire world safe. Why? Because he figured out how you don't have to always commit troops. You can use financial leverage from our huge economy to stave off a lot of these conflicts. So he's protecting the nation, and he's also protecting us from other bad guys, like Democrats and rhinos. Very interesting news this week if you haven't really paid attention to what's going on in the U.S. House. You have President Trump going after a dangerous rhino in the House. This is unusual because Trump normally does not call for the ouster of political candidates. He has a fairly long fuse. Who's the candidate? It's going to be a surprise for probably many. Knock, knock. Chip Roy, you're fired. You're fired. What happened and what was Trump's tweet like on Truth Social? Trump said, has any smart and energetic Republican in the great state of Texas decided to run in the primary against Reno Congressman Chip Roy? For the right person, he is very beatable. If interested, let me know. So here, he's appealing to all his 6 million plus followers on Truth Social, all of MAGA, to find a replacement for Chip Roy. Well, what's going on? Well, why fire Representative Chip Roy? You look back at his career, what has he done? Was it because Chip Roy called for Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton to resign back in 2020, the best attorney general in America, the attorney general, the very attorney general who led lawsuits to overturn 2020 election fraud? No, that wasn't the reason. Was it because Chip Roy continues to say Republicans are losing, losing, losing? They're no good, they're no good, they're no good. Constantly demoralizing the team? No, that wasn't the reason. Was it because Chip Roy thanked Mike Pence publicly for certifying the 2020 fraud election? No. Was it Chip Roy endorsing Ron DeSantis 9 days before DeSantis even announced he was running? No, no. Was it Chip Roy's harsh criticism of Mike Johnson, who happens to be Trump's greatest ally in the House, who also Trump needs desperately in place in the House when his 2024 win will be contested? No is the answer to all of these faux pas on his behalf. What was the defining step that made Trump say enough with this man? It was his tweet where he posted a picture of the massive crowd swelling down at the border, all these illegal immigrants. And in his tweet, he announced, "We also need a president who didn't try to cut a deal with Paul Ryan for amnesty over security." Translation, he's saying, the current border problem is all President Trump's fault. And President Trump was just like, fine. 90 minutes later, Trump sent out his tweet to say, you know what? Knock, knock. You're fired. So we do trust the great people of the state of Texas to find us a good replacement for this man. We're also winning in the polls, where it has just been a wonderful ride since in all of 2023. Take a look at where Trump is right now. He's at plus 55 over DeSantis and over Haley. It's amazing. He's climbing every day over Joe Biden here. He's at plus 6, leading 48 to 42 over Joe Biden. And so what's America saying in all of this? They're saying, bring back the boss. Bring back the boss. And Trump also lets us know on some of his postings how well the polls are when you insert RFK Jr. What we're finding out is about 3 times as many Biden 2020 voters as Trump 2020 voters currently say they would vote for RFK Jr. So if RFK Jr. runs, a lot of Biden voters are going to want him, not so many Trump voters. At a 3-to-1 margin, that's incredible. At a 3-to-1 rate, Biden's people will cross over away from Biden to go to RFK Jr. So we all say, leave him in, leave RFK Jr. in the mix. And also, Biden's approval numbers just keep plummeting. Like a lead balloon. He's at 33%. Even Time magazine has made note of this, where they've released "It's time to arrest this fraud." No, it's a fake, but it's a beauty. It's a beauty. Also making headlines is our top contender for the VP race, who happens to be none other than Kristi Noem. What did she say today that just shows how she cements herself at the top of the leaderboard each week? She said, the Supreme Court of the U.S. must reverse their decision immediately of what Colorado has done in kicking off President Trump, and the GOP must unite behind President Trump. Where was she 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, she's talking against China. Then last week, she's talking about how the GOP should get behind President Trump. Now she's at the GOP must unite behind President Trump, and we're still several weeks out from a primary. So it's amazing. She just makes all the right plays, and it costs her absolutely nothing. But it will endear her to MAGA. You kind of wonder, why doesn't more Republican governors just do the same thing? Here we have Fox in one of their few times of really helping America by laying out in a large time frame what Trump's witch hunt has been like. So they are waking up people. The deep state is panicking over how Fox is really bringing some clarity to what's going on with President Trump. We also have a picture coming up of Justice Clarence Thomas. When he sees Colorado's attempt to steal the 2024 election, his reaction was just like, this is not a problem. Why? Because he's going to do the right thing. We love Justice Thomas. President Trump did have an endorsement this week. Representative Andy Barr wanted to say, I publicly support President Trump. So we're winning with endorsements, winning with policy. We're winning also in the media. And to give you an instance of how much all these investigative journalists are helping, we're going to take a look at Laura Loomer. This was a little while ago, back on the 7th of November, but even see here Santos, before they let him go, said, you know what? Because Laura Loomer has done this work, her findings are significant. I've brought them to the colleagues on the House Oversight Committee to investigate further. Wow, so this is huge. We have individual journalists getting enough truth out there that it's getting to House committees. And that's why we love people like Laura Loomer, who will just go right up to the bad guy and get the goods. So we're grateful for her. We're also grateful for Elon Musk, who continues to be the lead warrior against wokeness in the world. And his recent quote this week, he says, diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates are in and of themselves a form of discrimination and must end, period. Awesome stuff from him. Yay. So I'll give him a hand clap. He also says, yeah, DEI must die. DEI must die. How big is his impact? Well, Charlie Kirk will tell you. Charlie Kirk here just several days ago said, and I quote, Elon Musk liberating Twitter will go down as one of the greatest free speech victories in the history of Western civilization. Wow. So we are grateful. We are grateful for what's going on there at Twitter. You might ask, well, how is Twitter really doing? I'm not hearing necessarily all this good stuff about it. It sounds like they're struggling. No, they're not struggling. Here's where they were 1 year ago. This is December of 2022. The blue line is Twitter. They were at 150 million interactions. Now, they have went up 300%. They're at 450 million interactions per day. That's amazing. To give an instance, look at Instagram. There was not similar growth. Instagram went pretty much down and plateaued. So Twitter's on the rise, now known as X. Same thing with their web traffic. Here they were at 200 million. Now they're above 600 million interactions a day. And so their traffic is going bonkers. Why? Because Elon Musk is opening up the internet to free speech. Why are we interested in all this? Because free speech means more free and fair elections, and you're going to see conservatism come in wonderfully. Now, is there any pushback? You better believe there's pushback against Elon. The most recent one, the EU is launching a probe, brand new probe against him for alleged failure to counter illegal content. So they are just at their wits' end how to stop him. They can't. But Fox News noticing it here, the Biden regime attacking the world's richest man. They know they're going after Elon. The whole world knows. And so Elon has a lot of people covering his back. We have Rumble, just on a tear lately. The biggest video platform in the world of free speech. And that's why they're of interest. They right now are the kings of the internet. Every weekday morning in the United States of America, the top 3 podcasters are all on Rumble. Dan Bongino, Steven Crowder, and Steve Bannon's War Room. So they are crushing it. They're also breaking the shackles of big tech by introducing the new Rumble Cloud, which will really give freedom of where you park your data. They're putting that on the backbone of rumble.com, and they are committed to being the last highway supporting the free and open internet. So we're grateful for them. And we're also grateful in the media that truth is getting out about what really happened in Israel, what really happened with Hamas. There is a video, a 47-minute film that the Nation of Israel put together of what happened on that civilian massacre. And now we have more and more newscasters finally watching what happened in that video. The first was Elon. It totally changed his mind. The next one who saw it was Sebastian Gorka. And now we have Chris Cuomo. And he's like, yeah, this really opened my eyes. He's like, it should be shown to all America. And so truth is getting out, and this was some pretty hard-hitting, pretty intense stuff. Truth is getting out, so we rejoice with that. We also rejoice, but in a weird way, the deep state was stupid enough to go after this guy. The Biden Department of Justice is charging the Blaze journalist Steve Baker. Now, why is that a big mistake? It's a big mistake because Steve Baker belongs to this man, okay? Glenn Beck. There's certain people you don't want to ever attack. Glenn Beck's friends would be part of that group. Why? Because he's Glenn Beck. And if you said, Lawrence, can you name me your top 3 people that could take a room full of 10,000 people and get them marching in one direction in 5 minutes with passion? This is the guy who could. And so he has a massive following, massive influence. He can persuade like no other. So you don't want to go after his guys. And you have America every day waking up and realizing there is a war. And here we have a soldier saying, again, I repeat, MAGA, MAGA, Mike Alpha, Golf Alpha. That's what the need of the hour is. Mike Alpha, Golf Alpha, or military terms, MAGA. We're also winning in the culture. And McDonald's recently had a new hire, but she's kind of messing up her lines. She's supposed to say, would you like fries with that? But in this case, it comes out, you want lies with that? I love that one. Okay, moving on. We also have great victory in the Iowa State Capitol building. Why? Because that satanic altar that was erected has been torn down and beheaded by a Christian and former military officer, now hero to many, and they're doing internet memes of him, recreation of what it might have looked like. Also, more truth is coming out each day about medical information, about COVID, about what really happened. You now have scientists on the high wire now claiming that Japanese scientists have found indisputable evidence that all COVID variants are man-made. Wow. So I know that'll be not necessarily proved yet, but will be making people ask questions. Also making people ask questions was what Dr. Claire Craig is doing by releasing this. You can't see it, but it's the labor force of America 16 years and over. And it was baseline. It was pretty much trending here. This is 2009. We're talking a whole decade. It's here. The COVID shots begin on this line, and look what happens right now to the disabilities in America. It makes people wonder, like, maybe we need to investigate further. Also great news, Governor Abbott in Texas signs a new law making it illegal to enter across the border. So we are very grateful for his, what do we have here? Oh, Person of the Year. Okay. Oh, and Trump won. Okay. All right. Who's doing that with these slides? Even Brad Pitt is in the know that election integrity is not going away. And one of the people helping the issue to remain in the forefront on the burner is none other than Tucker Carlson, who says, quote, if you stage an unfair election, which 2020 was, if you suppress information that voters need to make an informed decision, you are rigging an election. And they did that. And so that's not all he said. When he was on this conference call, and by the way, Elon Musk is now doing these conference calls that are just fabulous. He has Charlie Kirk on, and Tucker Carlson, and Benny, and everybody. Tucker Carlson on the conference call said, stop lying to me. This whole thing is a lie. The presidency is a lie. The guy is senile. And so you have Tucker Carlson adding great doubt to what the election turnout really was in 2020. And Americans are starting to just think about things in a different light. Like, Hillary was applauded for questioning the 2016 election, wasn't she? And Al Gore was applauded for questioning his 2000 election. remember? And then Stacey Abrams, how could we forget her and how she was applauded for questioning the Georgia election? But here, this man is arrested for questioning the 2020 election. What's going on? So people know the fix is in. All right, but we have good news everywhere concerning the 2024 election. What is one of the things that's going to play out beautifully for Republicans up and down the ballot? It's going to be this. This is a poll showing the percentage of Americans who are struggling financially to remain where they are. We're only going back 6 months. This was April. In April, it was at 20% of people said, man, I'm struggling just to remain right where I'm at. We're now in December, it's at 44%. Now, we're not happy that America is hurting, but America votes with her pocketbook, and this is big. This is huge movement, and it's coming right into an election year. Also, Americans are realizing, wow, there's forces out there trying just to erase history. Here, erasing memorials from Arlington Cemetery, which you think would be sacred, no matter what's currently set there. Well, not to the woke crowd. You also have more doubt coming towards the FBI and Biden and what they're doing. Heavily redacted records are now showing that the FBI's targeting of Catholics went beyond what it claimed. So people are going to wake up, especially when you see things like this former FBI official, his name, Charles McGonigal, he was a man investigating Trump with colluding with Russia. What happened to him? Well, he just got sentenced to 4 years in prison. For what? For colluding with Russia. So the guy trying Trump for collusion was actually the guy doing the collusion. Amazing, amazing. Also stuff that'll come out that will play into the election somewhat is Epstein's high-profile associates. Many of them are going to be named, and probably more Democrat names than Republican names coming out of that list. Also very interesting, I've only seen it linked on the Epoch Times, but Democrat Senator Dick Durbin supposedly has reversed his position on the Epstein records, and he may be helping release some more. So that's kind of amazing. Also making the election harder to rig is that Las Vegas now knows very clearly who they think is going to win. And so when you have the betting market out of Las Vegas already putting Trump 13 points ahead, it's just going to look so bad if the steal comes, right? Also, a tremendous blessing to the nation, Tulsi Gabbard, because she represents a lot of the moderates, a lot of the independents, a lot of the swing voters, a lot of the Red Dog Democrats. Anyhow, she comes out and says on Turning Point USA about the Democrats, she says, quote, they are trying to remove God from every facet of our public life. She is red-pilling the nation. And why is she important? Here's why Tulsi is so important, because up until 2 years ago, Tulsi was the most articulate, polished speaker the Democrat Party had. She influences millions. So she'd probably tell you, yeah, I was an insider who became an outsider, and I know this party of whom I speak. I'm not some little naive, pretty little girl. I'm telling you straight up, the Democrat Party is trying to remove God from every facet of our public life. So, very grateful for Tulsi. And for all the deep conservatives that she helped on the campaign trail in 2022. The January 6th saga also continues, but with some good news this week. Brandon Straka, if I'm saying his last name correctly, Brandon Straka, who founded the Walk Away from the Democrat Party organization, has won. Woo! His January 6th case that was brought against him by the leftist Soros-funded DC nonprofit law firm Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Blah. So we praise the Lord for that. Also adding more heat to this fire, more truth to the January 6th debacle is Clay Higgins, who says, quote, I've seen video of Metro Police going into a room, dressed in uniform coming out dressed as Trump supporters. What? Man, there's some bad stuff supposedly that's gone down. Here's more information about Tariq Johnson, Lieutenant Tariq Johnson, who was at the Capitol that day. Something you might not have learned from last week. He was the commander who evacuated the Senate and the House chambers on January 6th. So he kind of knows what he's talking about. He was one of the big people that was doing these things. Oh, Merry Christmas. All right. All right. And we still have revival in the House. Why? Because we have people like Wiley Nickel stepping down. We have people like Chip Roy going down. And we're going to do this week's deep dive to look at something that was an area of big concern among conservatives. A lot of heat, a lot of arrows flying around on this one, the NDAA. And what really went down between Mike Johnson, Chuck Schumer, what happened? Was there any wins? There were some massive wins that really weren't talked about. Number one, there was a hiring freeze for employees who work in the Pentagon's DEI programs. There was a prohibition on the military, on funding critical race theory. There was a ban on displaying unapproved flags, including the pride flag, on military institutions. There was a repeal of the military vaccine mandate. There was huge resources now given to combat both Russia and China, possibly the biggest win. Enhanced security for federal judges, which they need, especially if they're conservative. There was a 5% pay raise for military service members, and this was nice, largest in 20 years, and a parental Bill of Rights now for military families. So some really great things coming out of the NDAA, because it was made to look so bad. And there was 4 issues at play where Mike Johnson took incredible heat over Ukraine aid, FISA extension, abortions in the military, and trans surgeries. And there's this big question, why didn't Mike Johnson fight harder? You know, what went on? Well, Mike Johnson and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer met on Capitol Hill to iron out differences between their 2 versions of the 2024 defense bill. There was some good stuff, but people may not know about all the dynamics. Let's look at how their discussion could have went. This would be between, we'll call it between Chuck and Mike, okay? And let's say Chuck says to Mike, should we dance around and posture, or should we just talk very blunt, very open, very honest? Mike said, just talk very blunt. Because I'm wanting to start with Ukraine aid. You have really deep sixed me, Chuck. It was supposed to be $300 million that we approved back in September through the House, and you tried to add on another $300 million in the Senate. We're not going to stand for it. And you can imagine Senator Schumer saying, well, Mike, think about it. It's only an additional $300 million, and it's for the year 2025. And guess what? Is there even going to be a Ukraine war in 2025? Not at the rate they're dying, not because Bakhmut has fallen, the average age of soldiers is 43. And Mike, remember, by 2025, the EU will end its provision of temporary protection to Ukrainian citizens. There's 14 million of them, Mike. And they're staying in these EU countries, and they're going to be drifting back. Just think of the $300 million as like a love gift to help them police their own people, because it's going to be refugee chaos. Mike would say, we are not increasing the Ukrainian aid. Chuck would simply go, Mike, this is a non-negotiable. I am coming to you in about 3 weeks with a huge Ukrainian aid bill of $61 billion. I will need peer pressure to convince my own chamber, the Senate, to pass this monster package. I cannot return with concessions, not on this one, not on this tiny $600 million amount, okay? So Mike, are you gonna make this your last stand? Are you gonna spend all your political capital right now and fight like this is your Alamo? You've got impeachment trials coming, you've got the January 6th investigations, and even worse, Mike, you got 9 days after you come back in January to finish 4 appropriation bills. Is this NDAA bill the battle you want on your desk after Christmas break? We passed the NDAA for 62 straight years, Mike. My advice, take the Ukraine thing as a win. You're getting away, which is 600 mil. Well, wait a minute, does this check out? Does this check out what Chuck is talking? Yeah, on December 4th, Biden says, yes, we're gonna push a 61 billion with a B Ukrainian aid package. Is the Senate moving on it? You better believe it is, because this is the pictures coming out of Washington just last week. So, number 2, Mike would say, all right, Chuck, we got to talk about this FISA extension. I can't pass a clear FISA extension. I want reforms with it. And Chuck would say, Mike, we've already compromised. We went from 12 months down to 4. We really shortened it for you. Mike, how long do you need to reform this thing? You don't want to replace it, correct? You want to just reform it. Mike would say, well, yeah, I was on Fox with Bret Baier. I was hoping 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 5 to 6 weeks. I need 5 to 6 weeks. And so Chuck would go, well, Mike, what more do you need? Take it as a win. And Mike would kind of slightly grin and realize he has one. He would go on and say, but Chuck, we have a major issue. We have to stop funding these abortions. And Chuck Schumer would reply, oh, Mike, not abortions, but you mean the reimbursement for abortions in the military. He would say, Mike, you're talking small stuff. You're talking maybe 700 women service personnel, maybe up to 900. You're talking less than $1 million, Mike, on an $886 billion package. And the only reason it's that high is because your president, Donald J. Trump, put 3 people in the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. Mike, before Roe v. Wade fell, the average drive distance for females who worked on Army bases or military bases was 40 minutes. Now it's 270 minutes. It's went up by a factor of 6. In fact, if you look at the state of Texas, the drive time is over 8 hours to reach abortion providers. So that's why it's as high as it even is. Mike would say, we are not putting money to fund reimbursement for abortions. We're not going to do it. Chuck would say, negotiate? Are you trying to negotiate, Mike? This is a non-negotiable, okay? Number one, our constituents would kill us, all right? So not for all the tea in China, but even if we could, Mike, even if we could, here's why I won't give an inch. Because, Mike, we're going to put abortion on the ballot in several swing states in 2024. Mike, this election's just 10 months away. And we're also going to see if the Supreme Court is stupid enough to try an abortion case in an election year regarding this abortion pill, mifepristone. And he goes, Mike, I know you're smart. And the best way for you to sabotage President Trump right now and his chances in 2024 is to pull the pin on an abortion grenade and roll it right into the room, especially when Trump is surging in the polls, surging in the swing states. Have you noticed, Mike, how Trump has went absolutely silent on abortion? And you're also not wanting to sabotage your Republicans in vulnerable districts in 10 months from now. Remember, Mike, 13 seats in your U.S. House were decided within a margin of just 2% of the votes. He says, for me, Mike, I would just take this as a draw. We're not increasing. We're not implementing a new program. Mike, I know you're just going to make this quietly go away to cover for President Trump. Does this check out? Yep. Actually, the Supreme Court was stupid enough to take an abortion case in an election year. They're going to hear the showdown, and their findings are going to be released around June. What are the Democrats doing? Man, they're trying to put abortion on the 2024 ballot in multiple states. Look at this opinion out of the Washington Post. Democrats' 2024 advantage, what is it? Abortion ballot measures in key states. White House interested? Oh, you better believe it. U.S. Vice President Harris is going to ratchet up the fight for abortion access as 2024 looms. What does the New York Times think about it? Here's the New York Times swisher. She says if the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States bans the abortion pill, the GOP will lose everything. So you can see which way the Democrats are leaning 10 months from now. And is Trump surging in the swing states? In every swing state, he's pulling ahead of Biden. He's crushing it. He is surging. How much surge is Donald Trump having? This was back in February. Look at this he is in red. And here is where he is in relation to Biden right now. He's got incredible momentum. The news media talks about it. Trump wins largest lead in poll history as his 2024 momentum doesn't let up. Does Trump understand momentum? Trump thinks about momentum all the time, even back in 2017. Remember when he talked in the National Boy Scout of America Jamboree? He spent 7 full minutes of his speech teaching Boy Scouts on momentum in life. So he does not want anyone killing the momentum. He does not want the abortion grenade rolled in right now. So that leaves us with number 4, the 4th issue of the NDAA, and that was trans therapies and surgeries. And Mike would say, Chuck, we are not paying for trans therapy or trans surgeries. Let's negotiate. Chuck would say, Mike, you're talking about a program that's been going on just fine for the last 6 years. And it's a tiny one. You're talking 300 to 400 service personnel. And Mike, this is a non-negotiable. I'm not giving you anything. Number 1, the trans community would be an absolute outrage if we kill this funding. And they are very passionate, in your face kind of demonstrators. And no, absolutely not. But more than that, Mike, we would love it though. However, if you want to fight us on this, we're begging you, Mike, fight us on this one. Why? Because it would look so ridiculous. You know how you're trying to impeach the current president? And of course you're not going to. You don't have the votes in the Senate. But you're trying to dirty him up pretty bad, make him look really bad. You know what's really funny about this, Mike? Because you're trying to make President Biden look like the bad guy, while you Republicans are wanting to beat up trans people. Mike would say, what, beat up trans people? And Schumer would smile and go, Mike, that's how the media, our friends in the media would portray it when you fight us on this. Mike, we would love to make the 2024 election all about how Republicans are denying trans rights. But he goes, I know you're smart, Mike. You're not going to say anything. Take this as a draw. So, some of the dynamics in play. And there were huge positives that came out of this. What's the biggest positive of all on the NDA? It's the way Speaker Johnson handled it. What did he do? He did not make this a showdown at the OK Corral. Number 1, he decided to protect Donald J. Trump at all costs. He's giving Trump the best shot at winning in 2024. Number 2, a great praise. He's giving his fellow House Republicans the best shot at winning their re-election in 2024, especially in those difficult fought races. And number 3, he is gaining the high ground in facing this coming $61 billion with a B dollar Ukrainian aid bill, and it's coming. But there's a lot of harsh words said by people like Bannon, MTG, Cash, Laura Loomis, DC Drano against Johnson. But are they really attacked him. But are they the good guys? Yes, they're the good guys. And guess what? He's also one of the good guys. But they were looking at different things. And Mike was looking much further down the line. So this meme kind of shows this is what happened with the NDAA bill. This is Mike Johnson. And he had to take some maybe even well-intentioned arrows. But look at what he's protecting. He's protecting the Republicans down here who are coming up for election in 10 months. So Mike Johnson is a speaker who's playing the long game. He's not getting distracted by the short game, because all of this is about November 2024. And lastly, and that's all good news. We've got a great speaker. We got some great people. Lastly, the best news possibly as we come into the new year is what happened with Google, meaning they released their statistics on searches, what Americans were interested in. And here's what they discovered, that right-wing pop culture dominated 2023 in Google, which is really amazing, because normally you think of, a lot of conservatives wouldn't even use Google. They would use Free Spoke, Brave, they would use DuckDuckGo. But Google was saying, no, this is what happened. Look at the #1 searched musician of all 2023, okay? It wasn't Taylor Swift. It was a very conservative country music artist who sings about left-wing violence and how bad it is when he released the song Try That in a Small Town, which was the #1 searched song of 2023. Guess what the #2 searched song in 2023 was? Rich Men North of Richmond by Jason Aldean. Amazing. His song talking about how the Washington elites are killing the common man with taxes and spending, leaving us with nothing. What was the #3 searched movie? Sound of Freedom. The #3 most searched movie in 2023. And so what we found, even with all of their suppression, there is a massive hunger in America for conservative movies, conservative music, conservative dialogue, and even Google has to admit it. And that's great that there's a passion and there's a fire out there. And for all these things, we praise the Lord this week for his goodness. Let's give the Lord a hand clap. We wish you a Merry Christmas and God's blessing on your homes as well.